Hey, welcome back to a brand new episode. Today, I'm going to just jump off into it. I want to take a look at one of the best and most unforgettable and most stellar series finales in TV history. And that is the series finale of The Mary Tyler Moore Show, which aired 45 years ago this year. The date that the Mary Tyler Moore Show's last episode aired over on CBS was March 19th, 1977. My family and I watched the episode, very saddened to see the show come to an end. However, it was decided at the beginning of season 7 by the producers that that would be the last season of the show. They wanted the show to go out while it was still on top, still garnering multiple Emmy wins and nominations, and while it was still a ratings hit. Mary Tyler Moore herself, not too thrilled with the idea initially, but she reluctantly went along with the idea, didn't protest. And season 7 is the season that I remember the best, when CBS was showing the Mary Tyler Moore Show every Saturday night, along with the rest of the shows among that amazing Saturday Night Stellar lineup, which included All in the Family, MASH, The Bob Newhart Show, and The Carol Burnett Show. So the last episode of The Mary Tyler Moore Show went pretty much like this. WJM, which was never a ratings success, that was one of the running gags throughout the series. WJM was always usually in last place when it came to ratings. They got a new station manager, and he decided that he wanted to turn the station around and wanted it to become successful and a ratings winner. So his brilliant idea was to make some changes to the staff. So he decided to fire Mary, Lou, and Murray, along with Sue Ann, and keep Ted. Classic, brilliant Mary Tyler Moore Show writing. A complete twist on how you would have expected that show to come to an end. That's one of the things I like about the Mary Tyler Moore Show the best. The writing was superb. It was excellent. It was absolutely perfect, literally. I mean, if you can think of a TV show that was almost perfect, it would be the Mary Tyler Moore Show. And to this very day, it is the TV show that gives me a sense of safety and comfort, unlike any other TV show I've ever watched before does. I feel so safe when I watch that show. It's really kind of hard to put into words and to explain, but I've always felt that way every time I've watched it, and I still feel that way all these years later. So basically for the rest of the episode, and the episode was simply titled The Last Show. Basically, it shows everyone having to adjust to the fact that they've lost their jobs and that they're leaving WGM after having worked there for so long, and they're having to leave each other. And my favorite part of the episode was Lou, feeling so badly for Mary, decided to cheer her up, try to cheer her up a little bit. He surprises her by bringing back both Rhoda and Phyllis. Because, of course, both Rhoda and Phyllis had left Minneapolis. Rhoda had gone back to New York, and Phyllis had moved to San Francisco. So he brought them both back to try to support and cheer up Mary. And I remember seeing the two of them when they came back. I was so surprised, so happy to see them. Completely unexpected. And again, another one of those twists that the Mary Tyler Moore Show was so famous for and so well known for. So, of course, then we get to the last scene when everyone is in the newsroom. It's their last episode together, last newscast, and everyone is basically sharing how they feel about one another. There are lots of hugs and lots of tears, lots of emotion. The episode still, to this day, always gets to me. It always, I get so emotional. I get such a big lump in my throat every time I see it. It's really hard not to. I have not watched it lately. I have been binge watching the 7th season of the Mary Tyler Moore Show just because it's the season I remember the best when it was on CBS. That's an episode I have not watched yet. I've been binging it over on YouTube, but I just can't bring myself to watch the last episode. Not now. Not yet. Because as a lot of you know, The entire principal cast of the show has passed away at this point. In 2021, we saw the passings of Gavin McLeod, Ed Asner, Cloris Leachman, and Betty White, as well as Jay Sandrich, who was, or Jay Sandrich, rather, who was one of the principal directors on the show, and Alan Burns, one of the show's producers. So that is absolutely still unbelievable to me that they all passed in the same year. So I have not been up to watching the last episode. Plan to do it, but every time I decide to, I chicken out. And I go back and I watch something from another season. Or I watch an episode from season 7 all over again. But season 7 was really a good season. The show did definitely go out with a bang. It definitely went out on a high note, went out on top, just like the producers wanted it to. Season 7 had a lot of great episodes, like the very first episode of the season, when Georgette went into labor at Mary's apartment, and Mary and Lou had to deliver the baby, and Ted and Georgette named the baby Mary Lou. Also, the episode when Murray and Ted and Mr. Grant all fantasized about how it would be if they were all married. Each of them were married to Mary, how life would be if they were Mary's husbands. This also was around the same time as the episode where Mary had another one of her infamous dinner parties, which were usually always a bust, and this one was no exception. There was a big blackout, and Johnny Carson was invited to the party, and he did show up, but no one could see him, and he couldn't see them either. This is also the season when we got to see Sue Ann's infamous vibrating bed. Totally Sue Ann, that bed, all the way around. It was also the season when we saw Mary have develop an addiction to sleeping pills, which Lou personally helped her to overcome. We also got to see Mary deciding that she was going to hire a brand new female sportscaster to WGM, named BJ, pretty blonde girl with her faucet hairdo. BJ did not work out. Mary decides that she has to fire her, and she's putting it off, doesn't want to do it. But BJ pushes her a little bit too far, and she goes ahead and gives her the axe. Speaking of season 7, we saw a Mary Richards we had never really quite seen before. Mary was more confident and self-assured and independent than she'd ever been. There were times she was downright shrewd. Mary was making decisions within her career and within her own personal life that she was not backing down from and not apologizing for, not explaining to anyone. Mary had evolved so much over the course of the show. Because when the show first started, Mary was so sweet and so innocent and naive in a lot of ways, and sometimes even gullible and vulnerable. But by season 7, she had outgrown a lot of that, and she was a first-class, really together, confident career woman. Mary never did have a steady boyfriend. She dated a lot throughout the run of the show, but she didn't need a man to be with one steady boyfriend or to have a husband to make her feel confident about herself, to feel self-assured, and to feel good about herself. And that's what made the Mary Tyler Moore Show so independently different from any other TV show that had been on the air, especially in those days, in the 70s, to see a woman, a career woman, a woman who was over 30, and to have that kind of a mindset, to have that kind of a life. She was living her life. She was doing Mary. She was feeling good about herself most of the time, making her own decisions, carving her own pathway in the world, within the workplace, and in her own personal life. Mary Richards was definitely a role model to so many of us, including Oprah Winfrey, who in 2008, in an episode of her show, had her staff recreate the WGM newsroom for a Mary Tyler Moore Show reunion episode. Her staff also recreated down to the letter Mary's first apartment. This episode is on YouTube. I believe it's from 2008, and it's a lot of fun. If you haven't seen it, believe me, you'll really thoroughly enjoy it. It's a lot of fun seeing the entire cast of the Mary Tyler Moore Show back together, all sitting around in Mary's first apartment, reminiscing and talking about the show along with Oprah. It's a lot of fun to watch. And also, the TV Land Awards honored the Mary Tyler Moore Show in 2004. That entire ceremony broadcast is over on YouTube as well. The Mary Tyler Moore Show was honored. I believe they were the last show to be honored during the ceremony. Also honored were That Girl and the Andy Griffith Show and Gilligan's Island and Farrah Fawcett. You definitely want to check out seeing the Mary Tyler Moore Show back together and being honored at the TV Land Awards that year. It was absolutely wonderful to see. So there were reunions of the Mary Tyler Moore Show. Off screen, on screen, also over on Hot in Cleveland, which Betty White was a cast member on that show, she and Georgia Engel. Well, Mary Tyler Moore, Cloris Leachman, and Valerie Harper all guest starred on an episode. So all 5 of these ladies were all back together again. And again, I think that too is on YouTube. Great episode, wonderful reunion. But the last episode of the Mary Tyler Moore Show won an Emmy, and rightfully so. It was perfectly written, directed, acted. It was just stellar all the way around from start to finish. And if you haven't seen it in a while, it is on YouTube. And like I said, I do intend to watch it myself. Because the Mary Tyler Moore Show was, like I said, something that we watched in my family every Saturday night. We always ate dinner during the Mary Tyler Moore Show. We always had the same menu, homemade hamburgers and fries every week. And so I can definitely see myself watching the last episode with a homemade hamburger and fries right there in front of me. So I definitely will get the courage to go ahead and watch it. And I'm sure I'll bawl my eyes out during and afterward. But, that's kind of to be expected. And of course, at the very end of the episode, the whole, crew leaves the newsroom. They all leave together and they're all singing. It's a long way to Tipperary. Mary stays behind for a bit. She looks at the newsroom, very bittersweet look. And then she turns out the lights. Perfect. Absolutely brilliant. The Mary Tyler Moore Show, very, very special show to me. Special to a lot of people. Just a great TV show all the way around. The writing was so clever, so first rate. The show was just very mature. It was a class act. The cast, the chemistry among the cast was absolutely perfect. Stellar. And that last season had so many great episodes. Like I said, the birth of Mary Lou, and also Mary overcoming her sleeping pill addiction, but also we saw the return of Gordy. Because Gordy, portrayed by John Amos, was on the Mary Tyler Moore Show in the early seasons. So Gordy came back. The producers wanted to kind of wrap everything up, no loose ends. So they brought Gordy back for an episode. So we got to see what happened to him, how his life was, what was he doing. So, that was a great episode to watch, one of my favorites. And we also got to see, another episode stands out to me during season 7. Oh, it was the episode where Ted was in some kind of an accident, I think. And all of a sudden, he's a nicer, more gentle, more warm Ted. And everyone kind of blows him off. Ted's going through a phase, but big deal. But then they began to kind of see what he's talking about, where he's coming from. And once they began to kind of follow his lead, Ted goes back to being his usual egotistical self again. So yeah, the last season is like I said, not only is it the season I remember watching over on CBS during its original run, but it was just a really good season all the way around. Lots of, like I said, great episodes and great writing and acting. And, it's just, again, very, very dear to my heart. A lot of great episodes throughout the entire 7-year run. A lot of topics they covered, but they covered them through the lens of humor. And I think that made it even, more well received by the viewers. For example, the episode where Phyllis's husband, Lars, is cheating with Sue-Ann. Now, that was a serious topic. That definitely very serious in nature. We're talking about cheating and infidelity, but the way that it was written and acted, it, was funny. It turned a very serious subject into a humorous episode, very humorous episode. Some great scenes between Cloris Leachman and Betty White. So that too on YouTube. There's also the episode where Georgette and Ted got married at Mary's apartment. Spur of the moment wedding, and John Ritter portrays the minister. There's also the episode when Mary and Sue-Ann were being big sisters to these two troubled teenage girls. And Mackenzie Phillips portrayed the girl that Mary was mentoring. Also, there's the episode when Mary is in a relationship with a guy named Joe. Interestingly enough, he's portrayed by Ted Bessel, who was Donald and Marie's boyfriend on That Girl. They were going to make him a regular on the show. He was going to be Mary's steady boyfriend, but last minute, Ted Bessel, for some reason, backed out. And so they just dropped the idea of Mary having a steady boyfriend. So Mary just continued to, date, periodically for the rest of the show, rest of the run of the series. But so many episodes that were just, so good, so unforgettable. And I could not pay homage to the last show of this wonderful TV series. Now, the entire series is available on DVD. Also, there are a lot of good books about the Mary Tyler Moore Show. There are cast autobiographies. There is one book in particular that really covers the series from start to finish. A great breakdown, a great analysis of the series. I think it's called Mary and Rhoda and Lou and Ted. I'm probably bungling that, but the book is available on Amazon. The ratings are superb. It's on my to-do list to buy that book. But, again, definitely worth picking up. Of course, there are episodes available on YouTube. About 98% of the episodes are available on YouTube. There's a channel, I believe the name of the channel is Normie Bates, where you can watch most of the episodes. That's where I've been seeing the episodes, on that channel. Also, there were other reunions of the Mary Tyler Moore Show. Another one that comes to mind was the movie Rhoda and Mary. Now, I haven't seen it because the reviews of it are not that great, unfortunately. From what I understand, the only characters that you find out what happened to are, Rhoda and Mary. They make no mention of Phyllis or any of the other characters from the Mary Tyler Moore Show, which is very surprising to me. Kind of surprised that they went down that road, not sure why. That's something that I definitely need to research. Now, word has it that Cloris Leachman was not very happy about not being included in that movie, and her character, Phyllis, not even being mentioned. She protested, very outraged by that, and of course, rightfully so. But I think it's on YouTube, Rhoda and Mary, if you want to check it out. I kind of want to watch it, but I kind of don't. But again, I think it's on YouTube. So anyway, the Mary Tyler Moore Show, the cast, after the show ended in 1977, all went on to continue, to work steadily. Their careers continued to flourish and thrive. Most of them were fixtures within regular weekly TV shows like Gavin McLeod and The Love Boat, Ted Knight and Too Close for Comfort, Ed Asner in Lou Grant, Betty White in The Golden Girls, and Hot in Cleveland. So everyone continued to go ahead, go on with their careers and do very well. Valerie Harper was in The Hogan Family, or Valerie as it was called at one point in the very beginning. Cloris Leachman ended up over on The Facts of Life for the final 2 seasons. And Mary Tyler Moore was over in Ordinary People, one of the biggest movies, if not the biggest movie of 1980. She never had another successful TV show, unfortunately. She did try, but it just didn't happen for her again. But she still kept working, still kept acting. And, Everyone stayed very close, stayed in touch. They never, ever forgot their Mary Tyler Moore Show roots. They never strayed very far from those 7 years that they worked together on the Mary Tyler Moore Show. And it was my honor and my privilege, my pleasure to do this episode about the last episode and about the show in general, because again, it's one of my all-time favorites. Mr. and I both love it to pieces. And again, it is the show that makes me feel so secure, unlike any other TV show I've ever had the privilege of watching. So it's very near and dear to my heart. And I could not have this podcast. We could not have this podcast and not pay homage to not only one of the best series finales in history, but one of the most unforgettable TV moments in TV history. So to the Mary Tyler Moore Show, and to all of the actors, writers, producers, directors, crew, everyone ever involved with that wonderful, brilliant show, I salute you and I thank you. And on that note, that's going to wrap up the episode. And I hope that you enjoyed listening to this and reminiscing about it as much as we did putting it together and bringing it to you. So until we are back with a brand new episode, we'll see you next time.